For centuries, the Celestial Accord had dismissed the myths of Primora. Tales of an ancient species that had once walked among the stars were nothing more than exaggerated legends, fabrications meant to entertain scholars and fuel conspiracy theories. No one had ever seen a Primaran. No confirmed records existed, and no official database contained proof that they had ever been part of the galactic community. And yet, the stories persisted. There were whispers of a race that had risen from a small, forgotten world. A species so unpredictable and relentless that even the oldest empires had feared them. Some accounts spoke of wars where Primarans had fought against impossible odds and emerged victorious, of battles where they had turned their weaknesses into strengths. But those were just stories, fairy tales for those who craved adventure and mystery. In the grand chamber of the Celestial Accord, representatives of the most powerful species in the galaxy gathered for their usual debates and negotiations. Among them sat Chancellor Crix of the Vial Dominion, a cold and calculating leader who had spent decades ensuring his empire's dominance. Beside him, the towering form of High Lord Xiphos of the Zyran Imperium stood motionless, his reptilian eyes scanning the room as if sensing an unseen threat. The murmurs of political discussion filled the hall, until a sudden transmission silenced them all. The central display flickered as an urgent message arrived from a scout vessel stationed at the far edge of explored space. A voice, strained and trembling, filled the chamber. "Council, this is Captain Dren of the explorer ship Helios. We have detected something we cannot explain. It's a fleet, massive, heavily armed, and moving with terrifying precision. We tried to hail them, but the only response we received was..." The transmission crackled, the audio distorting before a second voice came through, deep, steady, and utterly devoid of fear. "We are coming." Silence. The council chamber, once filled with quiet political maneuvering, now stood frozen. Some delegates exchanged confused glances, others scoffed in disbelief. A few even laughed. Surely this was a mistake, an error in the data or the work of some rogue fleet. Chancellor Crix narrowed his eyes. "Are you suggesting this is them?" He hesitated, as if the mere idea was absurd. Captain Dren's voice returned, urgent and filled with dread. "You don't understand. The ships, they match the ancient descriptions, the markings, the symbols. We analyzed them. They are Primaran." The laughter died. The murmurs turned into fearful whispers. High Lord Xiphos leaned forward, his voice a low growl. "Impossible! The Primarans do not exist. They never did." Captain Dren's response came in a shaken breath. "They are here." For the first time in recorded history, the Celestial Accord faced a terrifying question. Had the old stories been true? And if Primora had returned? What did they want? The chamber's main screen flickered again, displaying the grainy footage from the scout ship. The council members leaned forward, their collective breath hitching at what they saw. A fleet, vast, silent, moving with an eerie surgical precision. Their warships were unlike anything the Celestial Accord had ever encountered. Colossal. There, dark hulls absorbing all light, blending seamlessly into the void. These vessels were built for war. Heavy plating, advanced weapon systems, and a terrifying efficiency in their design. But it wasn't just the size or structure that sent a chill. Through the room, it was the insignias. Symbols, painted in crimson and silver, adorned the sides of the largest warships. Ancient sigils that had long been erased from official records, and then they saw the name, Primaran Dominion Fleet. A ripple of dread spread through the chamber. This cannot be," stammered an Exoran delegate, his multiple eyes wide with horror. "They were never real!" Chancellor Crix's voice was sharp. If they were not real, then what is that? He pointed at the screen, but even he could feel doubt creeping in. A technician's voice trembled as he read the incoming data. We count over 300 capital-class warships, but our sensors detect more. Many more. He swallowed. This is only a scouting force. There could be thousands beyond our range. The council chamber erupted into chaos. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for negotiations. A few even suggested abandoning their territories altogether. Then, another transmission. The screen flickered, and this time the grainy feed was replaced by something far worse. A Primaran. Not a text transmission, not a recording. A live video feed. He stood aboard a command deck, his uniform adorned with unknown insignias. His expression was calm, too calm, but his eyes held no rage, no hatred, only certainty. And when he spoke, his voice was clear, unwavering, and impossible to ignore. To the leaders of the Celestial Accord, you have ruled for too long. You built your empires on arrogance and lies, believing yourselves untouchable. A pause. Then the words that sent an icy chill through the room. That ends today. The council sat frozen. The Primaran continued, his voice cutting through the silence like a blade. You thought we were a myth. You believed we never existed. Because of that, you made the greatest mistake in the history of your kind. Another pause. Then the final, chilling declaration. We are not here for peace. We are here to reclaim what was stolen. We are here to remind you why the galaxy once feared Primarans. The transmission cut out. Dead silence. For the first time in its long history, the Celestial Accord knew the meaning of true terror. The Primarans had returned, and they were coming. The Celestial Accord chamber was in chaos. Panic rippled through. The gathered leaders, whispers of fear turning into desperate shouts. The Primarans were real. Their fleet was here. And worst of all, they were not here to negotiate. Chancellor Crix's claws dug into the armrest of his seat. "Deploy the Grand Armada," he ordered, his voice sharp with urgency. "Every warship, every soldier, we will crush them before they set foot in our territory." A vile diplomat hissed in alarm. "Are you mad? We know nothing of their weapons, their tactics. Then we will learn," Crix snapped. "We are the rulers of this galaxy. No lost species, no forgotten race will challenge our power." But even as he spoke, doubt clawed at the edges of his mind. The last transmission still haunted him. We are here to reclaim what was stolen. What did that mean? A sharp alarm blared, cutting through the tension. The chamber's central display flickered again. "Incoming transmission. High priority," a technician shouted. The screen shifted to a live feed from the Outer Rim defense line, a vast fleet of warships stationed along the Accord's borders. Hundreds of vessels primed for battle stood in formation. These were the ships that had crushed rebellions, defeated invaders, and maintained the Accord's dominance for centuries. Then, from the abyss of space, they emerged. The Primaran fleet did not slow. They did not maneuver for positioning. They simply attacked. Thousands of railgun slugs, plasma lances, and guided torpedoes filled the void. The Celestial Accord's fleet fired back, defensive shields flaring under the assault. For a brief moment, it looked like they were holding the line. Then something terrifying happened. The Primaran weapons changed. Their railguns shifted from standard projectiles to kinetic penetrators, slicing through shields as if they were nothing. Their missiles deployed counter-AI systems, hacking into the Accord's defense grid. The first line of warships detonated in a brilliant cascade of fire. The second followed seconds later. The council officers on the transmission screamed for reinforcements. There was no time. The Primaran fleet cut through their defenses like a blade through air. The screen went dark. A technician turned back toward the council, his face pale. The Outer Rim fleet has been annihilated. The chamber fell into stunned silence. Chancellor Crix's breathing was heavy. He turned to High Lord Xiphos. How do we stop them? Xiphos's reptilian gaze was locked on the darkened screen. His voice came in a slow, deliberate growl. We don't. Another alarm blared. Incoming transmission, live visual feed. The screen activated. A human face appeared. Admiral Kane. His expression was calm, unshaken. His next words sent chills. Through every council member's soul, your fleets are broken, your defenses are gone. You have only one choice left: surrender. His eyes burned with something terrifying. Certainty. Chancellor Crix forced his voice to remain steady. You seek conquest? Kane shook his head. No. A pause. Then he spoke again. We are not here to conquer. We are here to reclaim. Confusion swept through the council chamber. Reclaim? The screen flickered. Old records, long buried, appeared one by one. The extermination of the ancient Primaran worlds, the mass purges, the cover-ups, the deliberate erasure of an entire civilization, and it was being broadcasted across the entire galaxy. Every species, every colony, every empire under the Accord's rule was watching. The truth, buried for millennia, was now exposed. Chancellor Crix slammed his fist onto the table. You cannot blame us for the actions of those before us. That was a different time. Kane's expression didn't change. And yet your council still sits on stolen worlds, still profits from the crimes of your ancestors. You never sought justice. His voice dropped lower. So now we bring justice to you. The council chamber was suffocating with fear. Outside, the Primaran fleet loomed over the Accord's capital world. They did not fire. They did not send boarding parties. They simply waited. Chancellor Crix turned toward the screen, his voice cracking. We surrender. For a moment, there was silence. Then Admiral Kane's face appeared again. His expression did not change. His voice did not soften. Surrender? He let the word linger. You think this ends with surrender? Crix swallowed hard. We admit our wrongs. The past was a mistake. Please, we can make amends. Kane leaned forward. His next words sent a chill through the council's souls. There is no we. The screen shifted. A countdown appeared. End minutes. The chamber erupted into chaos. What is this? A senator shrieked. Kane's voice was calm. Absolute. Your council is finished. Your empire dies today. Panic filled the chamber. Pleas, screams, desperate negotiations. None of it mattered. The countdown reached 5 minutes. Outside, the Primaran warships began to move. Drop pods rained down. Primaran soldiers landed. They did not come as conquerors. They came as executioners. The Celestial Accord's elite warriors tried to fight back. They were slaughtered. The noble families, those who had built their wealth on the destruction of Primora, were hunted down, one by one. Some tried to flee. They were shot down. Some tried to hide. They were found. Some begged for mercy. None was given. The countdown reached 0. Kane's final words echoed through the chamber. The Accord is no more. A single command was given. Across the galaxy, the empire that had ruled for millennia fell in a single day. Weeks later, the Primaran fleet stood victorious. The Celestial Accord was dead. But Primora did not seek to rule the galaxy. They did not claim worlds. They did not enslave. Instead, they left every species to decide their own fate. For the first time in millennia, the stars were free. But one truth remained. Primora had returned, and they would never be forgotten again.